Yes, hello friends and investors. This is Amidst and welcome back to my channel, Cebu Buhol Homes. And for this episode for Home Talk, we'll be talking about financial literacy amidst this pandemic. So I have here an article from channelnewsasia.com. The rise of personal finance bloggers out to save financially illiterate millennials. So I'm a millennial myself, so this is also an address to myself and to all millennials out there. So, how do you make personal finance shareable for the Instagram generation? Replace jargon with relatable comics and conversational tone to ensure financial literacy for Singaporean millennials, as some bloggers have done. So, this is one of the examples of the comical figure in their post. Blogs that can cut it have replaced Tuffy branding with, say, illustrations as nasty stock images. So this is that was an image by the Simple Sum. Then, ever since personal finance blog, The Woke Salaryman, put out its first article last year about the most important things to do to save 100,000 Singaporean dollars by the age of 30, its rise in Singapore's personal finance landscape has been meteoric. And it started with an observation by one of its co-founders, He Ruiming, when he was working in advertising. My industry peers were going to claw machines, buying sneakers, indulging in 7 Singaporean dollars coffee every day, so that's about 350 pesos. No, that's 90 pesos. 7 times 30, more or less, roughly, it's now 34, I think, but roughly it's very expensive. That's 210 pesos. Maybe if you go to Starbucks. He recalls many creative people like to spend on stuff that we wear as badges of identity. Like, oh, this is me, I drink cold brew every morning. Yeah, especially like posting on Instagram and on your My Day stories on Facebook. Whenever he shared useful articles on personal finance with these creative folk, he was told articles from established voices on the scene, such as the Seedly community, were so boring. And he started with an observation by one of its co-founders, He Ruiming, when he was working. That was when he realized there needed to be a really low bar for personal finance. A platform so accessible that even if you were a coffee drinking, sneaker buying person for advertising, you'd be able to relate to it. I love coffee. So definitely a coffee drinker. Yes, I used to buy coffee from famous coffee shops like Boss, sometimes Starbucks, but Starbucks is very expensive. But I don't really buy so much shoes. Yeah, but when the woke salaryman was born, even he and the co-founder Go Wei Chun, both 31, were taken by surprise by the insane reaction to their first post, which received 6,000 shares on Facebook within a few days. Today, the woke salaryman commands around 171,000 followers on Facebook and 114,000 on Instagram. Yeah, it was the same with Dawn Share, who runs SG Budget Babe. She first rose to prominence with her blog entry about saving 20,000 Singaporean dollars in her first year of work on a monthly salary of 2,500 Singaporean dollars. So now we have an image here. We don't believe in expensive rings. So there's like this comic. Then, during the past few months, bloggers like them have noticed an increased interest in investment-related topics. And with Singapore sinking into recession owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, not only Singapore, but also the Philippines, right? Personal finance platforms like theirs have never seemed more pertinent, especially to millennials. So, by the way, millennials are those born from 1980, I guess, to 2002. Somewhere between those dates. So if you were born on those years, so basically you are considered as a millennial. Financial literacy, where art thou? 2 in 3 working Singaporeans do not have sufficient savings to last them beyond 6 months if they were get retrenched now, according to an OCBC survey conducted during the circuit breaker. In such cases, they might roll over credit card debts and default mortgage loans to some loans to some extent, which would be the worst thing that can happen because credit and card debt is the most expensive debt you can have. Yeah, definitely. Especially if you don't handle your payments well, because you'll be charged with several penalties and some other fees every time you default your payment each month, says OCBC Executive Director of Investment Strategy Vaso Menon. The survey, which polled 1,000, well, that's why I cut my credit card already, because sometimes you'll be tempted to spend on unnecessary things if you have your credit card with you. The survey, which polled 1,000, and I'm proud that now I don't have a credit card, so only debit cards. The survey, which polled 1,000 working adults aged 21 to 65 and earning 2,000 Singaporean dollars and above per month, also found that 40% of respondents plan to pare down their investment portfolio. A crisis is the best time to ask questions because the crisis is a stress test to some extent, and this will come through in the survey results, adds Menon. The seeming lack of financial prudence among Singaporeans, however, does not mean a lack of curiosity about personal finance. Menon receives occasional questions about markets from eager undergraduates on LinkedIn. Personal finance bloggers might satiate their thirst for knowledge, he says, as these vloggers have the ability to write things in a more engaging way. Well, that's bloggers and vloggers. But for everyone to benefit, the Davids and Goliaths of the finance ecosystem must work together. The bank's role, he adds, is to offer a sanity check, ensuring these bloggers write sense. Similarly, according to Money Sense, the Monetary Authority of Singapore does not shy away from working with financial blogs such as Dollars and Cents and even lifestyle platforms like the Smart Local. These efforts complement Money Sense, which infuses financial education into schools from primary and secondary levels all the way to the Institute of Technical Education and Polytechnics. Well, I think early on in life, it's better to know about financial literacy because it will help you throughout life and even up to your death. But yes, and let's proceed. Bloggers are also able to provide nuanced insights about their readers, which can come in handy for financial institutions during a crisis. The larger the ecosystem, the better the awareness of financial literacy. If these sites keep saying financial literacy is very important, we can even reach the unconverted, says Alvin Chow, 36, the founder of financial education company Dr. Wong. It's also a reflection of demand and supply. When you have endless blogs about finance, it means there's demand. Keep it simple, keep it real. With a gamut of personal finance blogs, a platform at one's fingertips, since everyone's mostly online nowadays, those that cut through the noise have replaced stuffy branding with illustrations as nosy stock images, quirky videos, sleek layouts, and conversational tone. So it's more like how you can invite your audience to come read your blogs or watch your videos. But the rebranding is not merely aesthetic. Firstly, successful blogs like The Simple Sum manage to simplify jargon, with 85% of its target audience ranging from 20 to 34. So basically, they're millennials. And its podcast and comics aim to empower them enough through casual language. For instance, deciding whether to get a credit card should not be overcomplicated. Find a card that won't make you upgrade your lifestyle. If you're spending money to save money, does that make sense? Says Shu Yonduan, the platform's content lead. Secondly, maintaining accessibility requires some degree of transparency about one's personal circumstances, although this leaves others room to pass judgment. Cher, for example, took flack from disbelieving readers when she shared her saving efforts in her first post. But Cher says she goes Dutch with her husband, then boyfriend, gives her parents an allowance, handles their insurance, and makes her own coffee. Well, now we make our own coffee because we're mostly at home, so we don't tend to go to coffee shops to buy. And whether readers think her stingy or not, she continues to dish out timeless tips that apply to everyone, such as making sure that one has a well-covered insurance plan. Whether you're my fan or skeptical of what I say, you can't deny that you need to be insured. And if you go ahead and choose not to have hospitalization insurance when you're hospitalized, you'll have to take the consequences, she says. Yeah, talking about hospital insurance or other insurances, so I'll just put some links in the description of this video just in case you need one. Finally, keeping it real requires bloggers to understand a layman so they do not write in the void. Understanding, for example, that people were looking for ways to make money while at home during the circuit breaker. Share blogged about how to earn side income. So it's also important to have some other jobs so you have, additional income to your main income. It garnered about 18,000 views, making it one of her more popular posts. Then, the Woke Sarman's co founders think up their ideas, but they also look within the community or ask friends who know someone working within specific industries because they don't want to pull anything out of their asses, says he. Not just about money. Successful finance blogs also help readers realize that personal finance does not revolve solely around dollars and cents. Geraldine Finney blogs about issues impacting her generation, like the cost of living, work-life balance, lessons she learned during her um, first five, where's that? Years working, as well as the environmental and financial benefits of embracing minimalism. The 29-year-old who runs GeraldineFinney.com outside her full-time job in technology has also received COVID-related career questions, whether it is the right time to switch jobs and how people can future-proof themselves. So that's by bioinsurance. I should know that. So you can start going to your financial planners and check for some endowment plans and retirement plans. Retirement plans. During the circuit breaker, she conducted a webinar on how millennials can optimize their LinkedIn profile to be found by recruiters and other networking tips for beginners and introverts. So yeah, if you're an introvert, like you don't really want to socialize a lot, so you just watch videos and learn tips from vloggers as well and read blogs like this. She also discussed how her readers aged 25 to 34 can navigate a job market disrupted by technology. Many people tend to associate IT skills with big data and coding, but it's more about understanding where your industry is headed and how you can align yourself accordingly so you can add value to employers, she says. This could mean exploring a new software that is specific to one's industry and improves one's productivity. Essentially, financial advice is life advice. Yes, of course, because it's a plan for your lifetime. Like whether or not you prioritize securing your health, your wealth, or your education, your family's education. So it depends. It also sets your priorities. On any personal finance journey, keeping one's mental health intact is important. Shares Hay. If a job causes severe distress and you can afford a break, he recommends leaving off your savings for a while before starting the job search. Yes, you can go traveling for like a month or 2 or 3 months, 6 months, if you have enough savings. And then after that, you can try searching for a new job. So I met a lot of people during my Asian travels that they took a break from their jobs, quit their jobs, and traveled for a while. But of course, they have savings already since they were able to travel. And as a result of the woke Saruman's non-judgmental approach, he and Go get younger readers opening up to them about issues like racking up debts through purchases in online games. So good for me. I'm not really into online games, although some of my expenses went to travel. Recently, a post of theirs about moving out in one's 20s gained them 10,000 Instagram followers within a week. The woke Saruman's values are inspirational. They clarify lest there be any fear that one must adopt a Spartan life. We are normal people. We don't eat instant noodles every day or eat only rice and beans, says he. Acknowledging privilege. He and Go are well aware that privilege underscores individual's perspective towards money. Putting the woke in the woke salaryman, they have no qualms about addressing how inequality influences personal finance. Yeah, and he and Go, yes, they acknowledge that a portion of Singaporeans won't find their content helpful because systematic poverty makes it harder for them to overcome their circumstances. You can tell people to have save 20%, 20%, 50%, and spend 50% and use 30% for your needs or whatever. But not everyone's created equal, says hey. These ratios won't apply to everyone. Yes. Go ads, we always preach long term decisions, but not having enough money in the household makes it extremely difficult to make such decisions. For their largely middle class readership, the woke salaryman advocates the right mindsets, which can be developed with emotional maturity and discipline. But the idea, but the idea of wealth shouldn't be monopolized by a few classes. Adds he who would like to see, say, a graphic designer be financially free one day. In a similar vein, Provident Chief Executive Officer Christopher 1050 says knowing his client's background helps him to better understand their relationship with money. If someone comes from a family that's been destroyed by poor financial decisions, like investing in the stock market, well, of course, stocks uh, went down. Yeah, as in went down. Now amidst this pandemic. So if you invest in stock market just before the coronavirus pandemic started, it's really it's a crash. Naturally, they view the stock market through certain lenses he cites. I've also spoken to clients who came from very poor families that are financially wealthy today. They don't dare to spend a single cent because they're afraid of not having money again, and that affects their way of investing. They become very conservative and put all their money in a bank. As we know, banks do not offer high interest, but of course it's very safe. Although Provident mainly handles clients in their 50s who do not turn to personal finance bloggers, more of them have approached him to speak with their millennial children about the importance of financial resilience for the road ahead. He has similar advice on perusing personal finance blogs. We need to take into context the blogger's upbringing, he says. So, are millennials actually sold? Some millennials, however, have not bought into the hype surrounding personal finance bloggers, even as they understand the need for financial literacy. They're useful source of information, but I don't think anyone should treat their advice as gospel, says Wu Bingyu, who works in a production company. The 29-year-old turns to his mother for financial advice because she used to work for the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore, or IRAS, but he also does his own research for a more well-rounded understanding. Likewise, if theater director Adib Faza is not seeking financial advice from his peers who share similar circumstances, he seeds through information on his own. As a freelancer, CPF and ERAS are things I need to figure out. Starting was hard because it felt like I was plunged into a deep whirlpool of information, says the 28-year-old. I'm getting the hang of it. However, the woke salaryman, whose initial target demographic would have included creative folk like Adib, does not quite cut it with him. As long as I don't fit into their version of a working person, which I definitely don't, then the advice won't be suitable. And I only feel bad about not hitting the goals they set, he reasons. It makes me feel like an awfully unaccomplished fool. Then, those who see the benefit of personal finance bloggers make it clear that it is important to do one's homework as well. Whenever 28-year-old Alexander McCall seeks financial advice, his research process begins with a billion tabs open on his browser because it's useful to build up your Google foo to know where to find answers. If I think I've got a pretty good sense of things, then I go ahead and do what my well-fed intuition tells me, he says. If there's still a feeling of uncertainty, I go to friends who seem to know their stuff. It helps him to think of personal finance as compulsory because it is like a test you have to pass on the road of adulthood. For bloggers, the mark of effectiveness could still be getting creative folk. The ones who inspire the woke salaryman embody the cliche that creative people hate numbers to be engaged. For example, filmmaker Cheng Chai Hong considers himself fairly financially illiterate because he never saw wealth accumulation as a goal. But the most useful financial advice the 30-year-old received was from He of the woke salaryman. He said saving money isn't solely for wealth accumulation. The more money you save and have in passive investments, the easier you can say no to bad deals or unhealthy workplaces, says Cheng. Then there is Jemima Wei, a writer and master of fine arts MFA student at Columbia University. She knew she wanted to be a writer, which doesn't make bank, so she planned for the long term. You don't need to go abroad for higher education, nor is an MFA a prerequisite to be a writer. But I very desperately wanted that kind of mentorship and writing community at Columbia, says the 28-year-old. I didn't think I could afford an education abroad, so I worked towards the specific scholarships that would make the reality possible. Despite being goal oriented, she felt that money talk was reserved for the realm of bankers and business whizzes. But bloggers like SG Budget Babe and the Woke Salaryman helped her bridge that gap between the garble of financial literature and yeah, layman understanding. Many artists don't want to deal with the money, the business side of things, but not dealing with it is a kind of mental shackle as well. It's directly linked to stress, opportunity, and time, which affects the quality and production of your work, Way says. Money, more than anything, is mental freedom and time that you can devote to the work you want to do. And as recession hits, the old adage, saving for a rainy day, has acquired a new importance for millennials with help from personal finance bloggers. Yes, there you have it. I hope you learned a lot from that one. So, me myself, if I haven't been in an life insurance company before, like 7 years back, so I've been with two life insurance companies already. I would not be educated about financial literacy, and I was thankful that early on in life I was able to learn about this. But of course, it's a learning process. It's always an opportunity to learn, and for some people out there, it's not too late to learn about financial planning. So if you have a friend who is more attuned to financials, so it's perfect time to talk to them. So this is Emre once again for my channel, Cebu Homes. Thank you for checking this video, and till the next one. Bye for now. Bye.